students. In our last video, we had learned about information gathering. Today, in this session, we shall learn about information gathering tools. So let me have a brief introduction about information gathering tool. The system analyst must always decide which information tool must be used and how it has to be used. The important rule is that the information must be acquired correctly, accurately, methodologically, and within a minimum interruption to the user person. Take for example, if an analyst needs only information available in the existing manual, in such a case, interviewing is not necessary. But if the manuals are not up to date at that time, interviewing is essential. In case if any additional information is needed, that time an on-site observation or a questionnaire may be considered. So we need to be familiar with various information gathering tools. Now, some of the tools we need to discuss are reviews of literature, procedure and form. Number 2, on-site observation. Number 3, interviews. Number 4, questionnaires. So, in this video, we'll be discussing about these 4 information gathering tools. I repeat once again, review of literature, procedure and forms, on-site observation, interviews and questionnaires. So let me come to the first one, reviews of literature, procedure and forms. An increasing number of software packages suggest the problem solutions are becoming standardized. So, as a first step, the search of literature through professionals is required. What are they? References and procedure manuals, textbooks, government publications, company studies, all these may prove valuable. But the main drawback of this search is time. That means, so when we are searching these information, it should be retrieved within a specific time. So after the particular time is over, it is of no use to us. Then the publication may be expensive and the information may be outdated due to the lack of time in publication. Procedure manuals and forms are also very useful source for analysts. They describe the format and functions of the present working system. Most manuals include system requirement that helps to determine how the various objectives are met. Take for example, I need to install a particular software or I want to install a particular game. Now for this particular game, certain hardwares are essential. For example, RAM is essential, 4 GB, 8 GB, etc. Further, the specific softwares are also essential. The sound card is essential. So what are these? These are the system requirement for the working of the software or the working of the current system. The up-to-date manuals save hours of information gathering time. This means if the manuals are up to date or if the manuals are updated, it saves lot of time, that is information gathering time. The printed forms are mostly used for capturing and providing information. The main objective is to understand how forms are used. To know this, we shall ask certain questions to us. Number one, who uses the forms? And how important are the forms to the users? Second, do the forms include all the necessary information? Yes or no? Then, what items has to be removed or has to be deleted? What new items has to be added? Further, how many departments in the organization receives these existing form? Is the form readable and easy to follow? How does the information in the form help other users to make better decisions? So depending upon these questions, we get to know how well we can gather the information, that is literature information or the procedure and the forms. Now coming to the second tool, on-site observation. Now what is this on-site observation? It is a process of recognizing and noting people, objects and occurrences to obtain the information. In other words, this on-site information is going to the place where the working takes place, where the users work and observe exactly how do they work in the particular organization. The main objective is to get close to the real system being studied. So, the analyst has to be knowledgeable about the general makeup and activities of the system. As an observer, the analyst follows a set of rules. That is, while making observations, either he or she, whoever it is more likely to listen than talk. That means during the on-site observation time, so a person may not talk but only listen, and has to listen with interest when information is being passed out. So while observing, no talking, only listening exactly how the working takes place. Then the analyst has to observe the physical layout of the current system. The layout of the current system is observed. That is the location and movement of the people and the workflow. The analyst has to be alert to the behavior of the user staff and the people to whom they come in contact. Sometimes the user staff may be polite. In that case, no harm. But many times the user staff may be rude, or they may not respond properly to the questions asked by the analyst. So in such circumstances, the analyst has to be alert to the behavior of the user staff. A change in behavior provides a clue to the experienced analyst. The clue can be used to identify the problem. Now, there are certain questions that can serve as a guide for on-site observation. Number one, what kind of system is it? What is the type of system it is being using? What does the system do? Who runs the system? Who are the important people involved in the system? What is the history of the system? How did it get into its present stage of development? What kind of system is it in comparison with other systems in the organization? So this was about on-site observation. Now coming to interview. So what is interview? Face-to-face interpersonal role situation in which a person called the interviewer asks a person being interviewed and questions designed to gather information about a problem area. In simple words, interview is a face-to-face communication between the interviewer and the interviewee. It can be used for two main purposes. Number one, as an exploratory device to identify the relations or verify the information. Second, to capture the information as it exists. Now, what are the advantages of interviews? It is an effective technique for eliciting information about complex topics or complex subjects and probing the sentiments underlying the expressed opinions. Number second, its flexibility makes the interview a superior technique for exploring areas where not much is known about what questions to ask and how to formulate the questions. The third advantage is that interview offers a better opportunity than the questionnaire to evaluate and the validity of the information gathered. The interviewer can observe not only what subjects say but also how they say it. This means the body language of the interview can be seen. Depending upon we can judge exactly what does it tries to convey. Many people enjoy being interviewed regardless of the subject. They usually cooperate in the study when all they have to do is talk. So when there is an advantage, there has to be disadvantage. So what are disadvantages of interviews? It takes longer time. Long preparation time is essential. So what is there is? So before we interview, we frame certain questions. For framing those questions, we have to prepare what questions we are going to ask. So long preparation time is required. Interviews can take a lot of time to conduct. That means most of the time is wasted and even the money is wasted. So when the interview is to be conducted, we have to arrange the interview. The interview should be arranged so that the physical location, the time of interview, and the order of interviewing that assures privacy and minimum interruption. Appointment must be made well in advance and a fixed time period adhered as closely as possible. Interview schedules generally begin at the top of the organized structure and work down so as to offend any more. Now, the most important guides to successful interview. Guidelines for successful interviews. Number one, set the stage for the interview. It is, we have to arrange the stage in order to conduct the interview. Now, second, establish a rapport. Third, phrase questions clearly. Fourth, be a good listener and avoid arguments. Number five, evaluate the outcomes of interview. Now let us learn in detail each one of these guidelines. Coming to the first one, stage setting. This is the relaxed, informal phase where the analyst opens the interview by focusing on certain things. Number one, what is the purpose of the interview? What is the main reason for conducting the interview? Why the subject was selected? And the third one, the confidential nature of the interview. So, what does the interviewer do? He gives an introduction. After the favorable introduction, the analyst asks the first question and the respondent answers it and goes right through the interview. The job of the analyst should be that of a reporter rather than the debater. This means he should give the information rather than arguing. Discouraging, distracting conversation controls the direction of the interview. Establishing rapport. Certain things that has to be avoided are: do not deliberately mislead the user staff about the purpose of study. A careful briefing is required, like what the interview is about. Too much of technical details will confuse the user, and hence only information that is required or necessary has to be given to the participant. This means the unnecessary information need not be given to the participant. Assure interviews confidentiality that no information they offer will be released to an unauthorized person. This means the information given by the participant will be kept confidential. The promise is important. Avoid personal involvement in affairs of the user's department or identification with one section at the cost of another. Now, further, avoid showing off your knowledge or sharing information received from other sources. Many times you will be knowing something, right? Don't show too much of your knowledge and don't share the information that you have received from other sources. Further, do not act like an expert consultant. This can reduce the objectivity of the approach and discourage the participant from freely giving the information. Lastly, respect the time schedules and preoccupations of a subject. Do not make any extended social event out of the meeting. Do not promise anything you cannot or should not deliver, such as advice or feedback. This is what, don't give any promises. Don't give any advice or don't give any feedback that cannot be performed. Then, dress appropriately for setting and circumstances of the user conflict. The most important thing, do not interrupt the interviewee. Let him or her finish talking, then you start talking. Third one, ask questions. It is important that each question is asked exactly as it is worded. Rewording may provoke a different answer. The questions must be asked in the same order as they appear in the interview schedule. This means, as per the schedule, the questions has to be asked. Suppose if we change the sequence or reversing the sequence destroys the comparability of the interviews. Finally, each question must be asked unless the respondent in answering the previous question has already answered the next one. Fourth one, obtaining and recording the response. Interviews must be prepared well in order to collect information when necessary. The information received during the interview is recorded for later analysis. That means sometimes whenever the discussion goes on, certain words may go off. So it is better that whatever discussion is going on between the interviewer and the interviewee needs to be recorded so that it can be seen at a later time. So this was about interviews. Now let me come out about questionnaires. What are questionnaires? Questionnaires are the list of questions that are being framed. This tool has a collection of questions to which the individual responds. So the advantage of these questionnaires are requires less time to administer than the interview. That means the time taken will be less than the interview. Unlike the interview, which is generally questions one subject at a time, a questionnaire can be administered to a large number of individuals simultaneously. In interviews, what happens? We may ask to one person or two person, but in questionnaires, we can ask, we can give this questionnaire to lot of people at a time. The standardized wordings and order of questions and the standard instruction for reporting the responses ensure uniformity of questions. The respondents feel great confidence in anonymity of a questionnaire than in that of an interview. In an interview, the analyst usually knows the user staff by name, by job function, or other identification. With questionnaire, the respondents gives opinion without fear. Their answers may be connected to their names. This means while conducting the interview, we know who the person is. So probably we may not talk freely to that person. But with a questionnaire, we may not see any person. We'll be only entering on the forms or on the paper. So freely it can be answered. The questionnaire placed less pressure on subjects for immediate responses. Respondents have time to think and questions over and do calculations to provide more accurately. Now, types of interviews and questionnaires. Now, these interviews and questionnaires are structured and unstructured. The unstructured interview is a non-directive information gathering technique. It allows the respondent to answer questions freely in their own words. The responses are spontaneous and self-revealing. The role of an analyst as an interviewer is to encourage the respondent to talk freely and serve as a catalyst to the expression of the feeling and the opinion. This method works well in permissive atmosphere in which subjects have no feeling of disapproval. Now coming to structure. Here the questions presented with exactly the same wordings as in the same order of all subjects. Standard questions improve the reliability of the responses by ensuring that all subjects are responding to the same questions. Questions may be either closed or open-ended, and open-ended questions require no response direction or specific response. Structured interviews and questionnaires may differ in amount of structuring of the questions. Now there are five major types of closed questions. Number one, fill in the blanks. What is fill in the blanks? Questions request specific information. Here the responses can be statically analyzed. So a dash is given, within the dash it has to be filled. The second is dichotomous, means yes or no type. These are one in which questions will offer two answers. It has an advantage similar to those of the multiple choice type. So it may be either yes or it may be no. Here the question sequences and content are also important. Third type is ranking scales questions. Ask the respondent to rank a list of items in order of the importance of preference. Fourth one, multiple choice question. That means one question may have multiple choices. It offers the respondent a specific answer choices. This offers the advantage of faster tabulation and less analyst due bias due to the order in which the questions are given. Alternating the order in which the answer choices are listed may reduce bias but at the expense of the additional time and to respond to the question. The fifth one, rating scales. These type of questions are extensions of multiple choice design. They are offered as a range of response along a single dimension. Now, open-ended questions have some disadvantage. What are they? The main drawback is difficulty of interpreting the subjective answers and tedious response to the open-ended questions. This is one drawback. The second drawback is potential analyst bias in interpreting the data and time-consuming tabulations. Now, disadvantage of the close-ended questions. They are costly to prepare. They have additional advantage of ensuring that answers are given in the frame of the reference consistent within the line of inquiry. Procedure for questionnaire construction. Decide on the data that should be collected. That is, used to define the problem to be investigated. Second, outline the topics of questionnaire and then write the questions. Decide what type of questionnaire must be used. Is it open-ended or closed? Edit the questionnaire for technical defect that reflect the personal values. Then pre-test the questionnaire to see how well it works. Means what? Check the questionnaires and see how it works. Do the final editing to ensure that questionnaire is ready for administration. This includes a close look at certain content, form, and sequence of questions, as well as the appearance and clarity of the procedure for using the questionnaire. Thanks for watching. Let us see you in the next video. Thank you.